All right, let's shift over and we'll quickly go over Saturday night's main event with 4 matches as it stands going into Saturday night in Tampa, Florida. We got Jey Uso against Logan Paul for the World Heavyweight Championship. And is Logan Paul leaving with the title away?
I don't think so. What are your expectations for the in-ring?
I would say of some of the Logan Paul matches, this one is not as high in terms of what I'm expecting for it. I expected a whole lot more from Logan Paul and AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and I didn't think that one quite hit the level. And I mean, AJ is a much superior performer than Jey Uso is going to be. Hopefully, it's a hot crowd for this match. Logan's a great heel. But I would not be scheduling this one to go like 20 minutes. And on a 2-hour card where you have 4 matches and 3 of the 4 all need time, I would not be going too long with this one. Like 15 would kind of be where I'd want to max this one out. And, I'm sure Logan will have several like big spots planned in here, but I think this is Jey Uso retaining the title, maybe with some involvement somewhere to protect Logan. But I think you're getting to Jey and Gunther on television.
Yeah, considering it's a Logan Paul match, I'm expecting like a lot to be mapped out and some significant big spots to be like perfectly planned and therefore hopefully perfectly executed. I don't really have as much anticipation in ring for this one as like either of their prior matches, and I mean, maybe on Saturday we're looking at this and it's like, oh, this really clicked well, great crowd reaction.
Yep. I could also see like these two being oil and water together. I don't know. I don't have a strong read on what to expect from their ring chemistry.
I don't think the match will be a failure, and for me, it's because the crowd should be very strong for it. That's Jey Uso's, I think, biggest attribute is just like his ability to engage the crowd. And you can argue that's Logan Paul's greatest attribute as well, his ability to engage a crowd. So I think the audience will react very strongly for whatever they're able to provide in the ring. Where would you put this on the show? Would you start off the show with it on an NBC broadcast, or would you end it or somewhere in the middle?
I mean, you could see the argument of ending the show with this. I just don't like, if you're telling me what's the most important match on this show, this is not it. This is not it. It's like the tag match is way more like bigger stars, bigger stakes.
Well, the bigger stars in what way, John? Because you could argue Logan is a bigger star than anybody on the show.
I just think for people that are tuning into this show, I think for your wrestling audience, like, is Logan Paul like itself like a novelty at this point? Like, he's
not for you and I. Again, like, this is also under the assumption that on NBC we're trying to capture a different audience, and I don't know if the ratings have necessarily shown that or not. But
they've done 1.4 and 1.5 million viewers for the last 2, so we're talking like slightly above like a SmackDown that they do for these shows, minus the Peacock viewership that they also get on top of this. I don't know. I could see them starting or just putting this in the middle. I don't see this closing the show.
I could see them starting the show off. Like, yeah, despite the fact that maybe ratings haven't necessarily shown us that a new audience is watching on NBC, I think they still will be trying. This is like their best chance to capture a traditional NBC audience that might be channel flicking.
That would be my thought. Maybe open with this, close with the tag.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, let's go. Punk and Sami Zayn against Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker. I think this is very much a storyline driven match. I think everything is going to be geared towards like Rollins being built all summer for his title challenge. So I see Zayn eating the pin here. Rollins probably being the one to get the fall with the help of Braun. And just the question, I think you're just planting the seeds of dissension without doing a full-on angle here of Sami. I think that's a long-term play that you do with Sami, but just continuing that with all these subtle hints that are being dropped that everyone's going to get, and it's whether it's a miscommunication or something that leads to the babyfaces losing.
Yeah, I think this is a strong Saturday night's main event match, like in that it's it's not necessarily like something big enough like it's a championship match, but at the same time it should be a significant chapter in the story that they're hopefully telling. And in this case, I mean, the primary interest has just been whatever's going on between Punk and Zayn, and a continued build for Rollins and Breaker as this like very dominant group in on Raw. The question is if we get the turn today, or if, like you're suggesting, John, this is just like maybe another significant slight on Sami Zayn for him to build his resentment towards CM Punk and really maybe the WWE universe at large. So I could see the turn happening. Like, I could see a post-match attack, of some sort, just for a big event to come off of this show with. And what's our next show? Money in the Bank?
Yep.
Like, could Zayn versus Punk be geared for that show?
I mean, and this is also like in the modern WWE storytelling where the idea that Zayn has a falling out with Punk, that doesn't necessarily mean he has a falling out with Jey Uso. It's like, I was justified in my actions towards Punk, but you and I are still together. And that's a further story with Jey and Sami that you don't have to, it's not like white hat, black hat, with, like, they are pretty good with playing with kind of, heels with justified reasoning and playing with that.
Here's a possible scenario. Tension continues to build between Punk and Zayn, but they don't necessarily like attack each other, but both enter Money in the Bank. Yes. Zayn wins Money in the Bank, has the possibility of threatening to cash in on his friend throughout the rest of the summer.
That's a great idea.
Possible.
Yeah. Oh. And you can have like the whole tease of like, is he going for Cena? But you have that lingering. That's a really good idea. Cena and R-Truth. So it's worth noting here that at least, the posters and who is advertised is not always the be-all, end-all, but you have both Cena and Cody prominently featured on the advertising for Money in the Bank. And I would say if Cody's on that show, this is probably the time to bring him back. And I think that's probably the thought here, is that whether it's R-Truth taking this beating and Cody finally reappears, and whatever that sets up. I don't see them going to a singles match between these two, but there's different ways you can bring Cody back and keep him aligned with Cena.
Yeah, I feel like that should be the expectation. And if that's the case, I could see this main eventing, John.
Yeah, in many ways, you're right. Like, we're kind of downplaying here. Like, Cena is the focus of this show, and especially if you are getting a Cody, you're right. Like, this would make more sense to end the show, and instead of going off the air with like Zayn or Punk or anyone, it's Cody just walking out, and then you have to tune into Raw or SmackDown for the follow up, and it's what is Cody going to say?
Yeah. I would expect that to be my predicted scenario.
So R-Truth will headline a network television program.
Well, I want to know if, like, to get to that moment, how big of a beating will Cena give R-Truth? Like, how violent of a beating can a John Cena give an R-Truth? Can we get a blood angle on Saturday night's main event?
Maybe they'll. Are they doing a press conference after? That'll determine my answer.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If we do get to Cody, like Cena Cody rematch, but for when?
Well, I mean, there's that notion. There's the idea of them doing some kind of tag for Money in the Bank. If you are not putting these guys into, well, obviously Cena not in the Money in the Bank, and nor should Cody be in that type of a match either.
Well, why not? Cody should go for Money in the Bank.
I just don't think this is a card you have to fill out, and I just don't see Cody being thrown into the ladder match.
5 matches, though, isn't hard to fill, especially with 2 of the bank matches already there.
Well, what's Cena doing on that show if it's not something with Cody?
Maybe nothing.
R-Truth in a cage match? 2 out of 3 falls with R-Truth?
I just feel like Cena versus Cody is too big of a match for Money in the Bank.
Well, that's the thought, is like Cena, and do you do this Travis Scott tag match for SummerSlam?
Travis Scott should enter Money in the Bank. He should win it at this point.
I show Speed and Travis Scott in Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance of Cody showing up on this. And you're right. If he's showing up, that should be what closes the show.
Yeah.
And then the cage match with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. I never know what to expect in these WWE cage matches. I often find these cage matches to be like, they can be very limiting in some sense. I think they built this up well. Like Drew's done some great promos in the lead up to this.
Yeah.
I think like you want some blood in a cage match like this, but you've really set the bar now for these big blow off matches, especially when they're involving Drew, to be very violent. And we'll see how far they want to go here. Their WrestleMania match, I liked it more than most, but it's not like it was one that I think was a big memorable aspect of WrestleMania by the time 2 nights of it were over.
Yeah. I don't. For me, the feud isn't so hot that I'm really anticipating this. Like at this point, it feels like we're done the feud, and therefore a rematch in a cage on a free show kinda is fine.
Drew's beaten him in like 2 matches. It's almost like Priest has to basically win this one.
By that logic, yeah, you would think so, right? Like Priest isn't necessarily the type that I think they would have lose so much, right? At the same time, Drew feels like he's a much more viable person that you should be protecting, to challenge somebody. Although Cena is the champion on his brand, and therefore doesn't really make sense.
Well, that means nothing in the grand scheme of things.
But it's heel versus okay, so you're saying Drew can face
Joe Hendry,
Jey Uso?
Yeah, him too.
Yeah, Joe Hendry.
The Battle of Scotland. I see both of these two in Money in the Bank likely as well.
Okay.
Coming out of this.
I'm going to say Priest gets the win just based off of the history.
Yeah. Well, that is Saturday night's main event, which is, it's a 2-hour show. I can't say I'm looking at this as like this can't miss show, but I think like there's enough 4 matches. I think most people are just looking at this for angles that are shot. And then you got 2 weeks to turn around for Money in the Bank, which is going to be the bigger show for them.
Yeah, when we're talking about in-ring, like there's no comparison between this and Anarchy in the arena. Oh, sorry, Double or Nothing. But I do think it poses like a potential significant story like beats, that you might be getting on the show.